If you love American music, you're going to love this. Welcome to American Music Backstage, the podcast that takes you where fans rarely get to go, behind the curtain. I'm your host, Kenneth Witt, and I sit down with fans, musicians, artists from across the country to talk about life on the road, the stories behind the songs, and what really happens backstage before the show. From rising stars to seasoned performers, you'll hear the journeys, the struggles, and the moments that made the music. American Music Backstage with me, Kenneth Witt, available wherever you get your podcast. Hey everybody, Kenneth Witt with American Music Backstage. I'm real excited. This is a brand new podcast. I've been doing a podcast for a while now called Gun Dog Nation. And, I had such a passion for music that I wanted to do something, that also aligned with my other hobbies and interests and my whole life, being around it. And I'm really honored today. This gentleman I've got on, I met him a long time ago, probably back in 93 or 94 through Johnny Lewis, our mutual friend. And Johnny and I were actually in law school when I met Don. And gosh, man, I was so fortunate because of Johnny getting to meet people like Don and seeing some talent up close and personal, and then we'll get into it. But Don later, actually, I don't know if you remember, Don, you produced an album for us when I had a group called North Fork.
I do.
Yeah. So anyway, before I keep rattling, I want you to introduce yourself, young man.
Well, I'm Don Rigsby, and what you see is what you get. I've been in this business for, over 40 years.
Wow.
And, still trying to get to Little Rock, as the Stanley brothers say.
Now, Don, you come from we're both Eastern Kentuckians, but you're from a very, which is musically rich in of itself, but you're from a uniquely musically rich area. Tell us what part of Kentucky you're from.
I live in a little town called Isonville. It's not even a town. We don't even have a post office anymore, but it's kind of like a suburb of Sandy Hook, which is a little teeny tiny town, and it's the hometown of Keith Whitley. Amen. And Ricky Skaggs was born and raised in Lawrence County on Brushy Creek, Cordell, Kentucky, and I'm kind of right in the middle between those. I'm related to both of those guys.
That's right.
Yeah.
Man, it's in the family. That's now. Isn't Larry Cordell also from that area?
He sure is. He and Ricky grew up as neighbors.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And years ago, Don, you just made me think of something. That I had a bluegrass radio show on WSGS in Hazard, and me and Dwayne Amberger and Keith Carrier, and we actually had Larry come out with that. He'd just come out with his Murder on Music Row CD, and we had him on our show. But he's a character, isn't he?
He is a total character, and what you see with him is what you get. I mean, he is country as cornbread. And,
he is what a storyteller,
Oh gosh, yeah, one of the best ever.
Now, Don, when I met you in 93, 94, who were you playing with at that time?
Probably J.D. Crowe in the New South.
It was before that. Actually, I remember when you got that gig.
Well, then been the Bluegrass Cardinals before that.
That's right. Okay. And that's right. That's who you were with when I met you. And I met you right before Crowe. What was when did you first play in an organized band?
Well, Johnny Lewis, you mentioned him earlier, is my neighbor in Elliott County, fellow Elliott County. And we had a band called the True Grass Band when we were teenagers. And we made one record when we were in college with him and Jackie Williams and Tim Gillum. And it was the only, and it had been gone for years and years. And finally, the other day, somebody found a cassette of it and digitized it and put it on YouTube. So you can hear that now.
I'll go find it. Don, I met Tim once through Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like Johnny took me to to Spigma
Yeah.
in 1993 or two.
Yeah.
So interesting. Man, time flies. So Truegrass, and were you all at Moorhead together?
We were.
Okay.
We had actually the Raconteur. I'm sure you remember that. Or you didn't go to MSU, did you?
I went to the University of Kentucky, but I was in the college the same time you guys were.
Yeah. Well, the Raconteur was the yearbook, and we had a full page in there about us and our music in our yearbook, the Raconteur, which kind of felt kind of cool, you know. I mean, like they're actually legitimizing what we do, because we would try to go to the music hall and find a rehearsal room to go in there and play, and they would kick us out all the time because we weren't serious, real musicians.
Well, you know, I know this is not a Johnny Lewis podcast, but I got to tell you this story, Don. You know, he's such a great human being. But
Yes.
I was working in the law library on Friday nights. I was a first-year law student. And he comes up to the counter, and he's got on a Keith Whitley T-shirt. And he didn't know him. He was a second year. I was a first year. And I was like, oh, man. I was like, you know, I saw him 6 or 7 times before he died. And he said, oh, really? I said, I'm from Sandy Hook, Kentucky. I went, oh, man. So that was it, right? You know, blew up and talked.
Kindred spirits.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, then he finally, you know, he's a very humble man. Human. Yeah. Just incredibly humble, actually. So he finally let it out that he played a banjo. And I was like, man, I wanted to play all my life. My cousin, my first cousin, Robbie Horton, who's Tanner Horton's uncle, was a banjo player. And I just wanted to play. Anyway, that's how I got started. He started playing a banjo. So Don, I went over to his house, and he had an apartment. He was roommates with Jim Tom Trent.
Yep, I remember.
Bill Mosley. What a crew. And Don, I walked in there, and you can appreciate this. I go over to his house. He's got a metronome going, which I really didn't know what that was. I could play guitar a little. And he was playing this crazy, crazy music. I said, what is that? It was Flight of the Cosmic Hippo by Bela Fleck.
And the Flecktones. Yeah.
I said, that ain't bluegrass. He said, well, it's kind of jazz, you know. And Don, he was playing that note for note.
That's what he always did from the time we were kids. Even, you know, he would go on a tangent. Well, this week or this month or whatever, I'm going to learn Sonny Osborne note for note. And then he would play it. And then our little band, he would want to do all them songs in the little band because he could play them.
Yes.
And then he would be on to J.D. Crowe. And I'm the first guy that kind of got him listening to Bela Fleck, because I brought the On the Boulevard project around, and he didn't like it for about a week. But then when he really got to digging into it, he learned that there was something there a little bit more, you know.
Yeah. You know, you guys are on another level. And you know, the last thing I'll say, and I'll get off that subject, but I later went to Sandy Hook a couple years later, and I met his dad. I'm sitting there talking to his dad for a while. Johnny Singer. Yep. And he was telling me a story. He's like, you know, when Johnny was in high school, I guess he was 14, whenever it was, he started playing the banjo. It was in the summertime. And he said he would play, and when school started back, I'd have to go in there at night and take the banjo out of his room so he'd sleep.
Yeah.
Said he practiced 12 hours a day. Just
oh,
crazy.
Yeah.
He's
relentless.
I've never seen anybody like it. And you know what's funny? I think he's still kind of that way, isn't he?
Yeah, except he's got a lot of money now, and he settled a few good cases over the years, and he's probably got more banjos than the law allows. Yeah, but we played together this past Friday night, and with my son. My son is a musician now too. And,
how old is he?
He's 18.
Wow, Don, it's been a long time then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we played together, and he was playing that night the first banjo he ever had. He had gotten it back, and he said it sounds as good as anything else I've got. You know, I mean, we're all that way, always looking for bigger and better. And you know, I'm that way with mandolins. There's some things that I've let go over the years that I'd like to have back. just for the sentiment of it. But, now I've kind of learned better than to sell everything.
Yeah, same. I mean, same here, Don. I've got two banjos. I know you would know about that. I could, if I had them today, I could retire. One Granada, and I had a top tension both. But so Don, take me from the Moorhead days of Truegrass. What was after that?
Well, Charlie Sizemore. I played for Charlie Sizemore for 2 years and was working my way through college with that. I had a little job at Grand Junction Hamburgers for about, a semester. And they had me wearing a bear suit and playing the fiddle out by the road instead of fixing hamburgers. So I mean, that's all well and good, but I didn't really want to do that. And so I went and found Charlie, and that's how I made my living, playing with him. And
I wish I had a picture of that.
And I graduated and got a call from my brother. Vern Gosdin was looking for a utility guy and a tenor singer, and a friend of ours, a friend of his already, but who became a good friend of mine, named Dave Rowe, was the band leader and bass player. And he went on to be Johnny Cash's bass player and played the slap style upright and all that, and was the best in town, really. Him and Joe Fick are the best. Wound up doing that, and I got to stay with him for 6 months, and he fired me twice, and and tried to rehire me 3 times after the second more effective firing. But I told him that I would take the job back on 2 conditions. And he said, so Dave is the one that had called me, and it was right around Christmas, and he said, what are the conditions? I said, well, I want a $50 a day raise, and I want a 2-year contract. So he said, well, I don't think he'll go for that. I said, I don't either. But I don't really want to work for him because I need some stability. I was newly married at that point. And so after that, I got a call one day from David Parmley, and he was the lead singer and the guy with the Lonesome River Band. Prior to that, I had played some with the Lonesome River Band on the side.
Oh, okay. And
they'd offered me the job a couple of times already. The first time they offered me the job was when Jeff Midkiff was leaving the band. Jeff was mandolin player and fiddle player, and they wanted me to play mandolin and sing tenor to Jerry McMillan. Jerry was singing tenor, but he was, they wanted somebody who could sing higher and stronger. Mm-hmm. And I could have done it. And they offered me the job, and I went and I stayed a little while and decided that I wanted to finish college. So I came on back and kept in touch, and Tim Austin had given David my number. And so I went up and tried out, and I got that job, and I stayed there for 2 years. And then wound up with J.D. Crowe after that for about almost 3 years.
Nice. I remember those days well. Saw you play several times. Don, I want to back up just a second, because I'm going to open up a can here and see where you go with it. But what was it like with Vern Gosdin? I've heard stories.
Vern was intensely talented. He could sing. I mean, well, he's got the records. It's all on the recordings to know that the man was a phenomenal singer. But he was a little bit paranoid, and he was using some pretty good drugs at that time. A lot of people in Nashville do and have done that, so he was no different. Yeah. But I learned a lot about singing from him, and about being emotional with your singing.
Oh, wow.
I've been around a lot of that kind of stuff, having been, exposed to the Stanley Brothers all my life. I mean, Ralph Stanley was a friend of mine even at that time, and he was the father of bluegrass soul as far as I'm concerned.
Amen.
So, but Vern loved bluegrass, and he would talk about, he called them the seldom seen.
Yeah.
Because by that point in time, Lou Reed had joined the band, and he was a huge Lou Reed fan.
Okay.
And Lou had been the guy that sang on a couple of his records already at that point. And so, but this was the thing. Vern sang sharp. And because of his paranoia, he thought everybody else was singing flat. So if you were singing the pitch to the music, you were singing flat to him because he was singing sharp.
Wow.
And that sharpness came from the emotion that he put in the music. You know, it was part of the package and part of the process, and I accepted it as such. But the last time when they let me go, Dave Rowe talked to me about it, and he said, "I'm sorry." I said, "Well, Dave, you're the band leader, and I accept it and what all." But I said, going forward, whoever gets this gig, you probably want to try to help them stay out of Vern's monitors because it makes him crazy. And we had another guy that I ain't going to name who was playing lead guitar in the band at the time, and he was supposed to be singing the middle, and Vern on the bottom, him in the middle, me on the top, on the parts, high baritones, what we call it. And he would lay back till I stuck out like a sore thumb, you know, on my parts, and he'd basically whisper his and mouth it into the microphone, and you know, I needed somebody to sing hard enough that I could blend with it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and if I'm nothing else, I'm a fairly decent harmony singer.
Yes, sir. You are.
And I think my record after that will prove that, you know. And so, and another thing that Vern did to me that I never quite got over was we were playing at his park in Ardmore, Alabama, and the show was us and Dean Dillon and a band from down there in that area called Heart of Dixie. And Dean was phenomenal and what all, but Vern had asked Buddy Cannon to come and sit in with the band and play acoustic. Well, Buddy's a huge producer in Nashville, and he liked what he heard from me. And so he calls the office like a week and a half later and asks about getting me in the studio to sing on a project. And Vern had them to tell him that I was unavailable, but I was very available to the point that if he'd asked me to come in the studio, I'd have quit Vern to have done that because eventually it would have paid off.
Yes, sir.
But the record was Sammy Kershaw's first major release. He wanted me to come and sing on that, and I was knocked out of it by Vern for whatever reason. I never really understood why. And he was good to me in a lot of other ways, but just little stuff like that, you know, it was tough.
Now, at that time with Vern, was Phil Ledbetter playing for Vern?
Nope. Phil had been there earlier.
Okay.
I think Phil had been there. There was a guy named Buck that did the sound for Vern, and his wife was named Kathy. And Kathy did the high part, and Phil was singing, actually. The reason he was in the band was to sing.
Okay.
He played the dobro, but, I mean, he was there because he sang. So he was singing the middle.
Okay.
But that's kind of how I got acquainted with Phil because of our mutual kinship with the Vern Gosdin show.
Yeah.
And I met Phil up in Ohio one night. We had a twin show with J.D. Crowe in the New South and the Bluegrass Cardinals. So it was a dual bill. Well, we got to talking, and he just, we struck up a friendship. And about a year later, when the job came open with Crowe, I happened to be at a festival and that they were at, and I wasn't working that weekend. And Phil said, "Hey," he said, "man," he said, "this gig is going to be open. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Oh yeah, very interested." So I went out, and he and Crowe wanted to sing, and we sang for 4 hours at the back of a Lincoln Continental in Olive Hill, Kentucky, and they would say to me, well, what key do you want to do this in? I'd just say, make it easy on yourself. And I think Crow liked that I was confident enough to do whatever needed to be done. And the next morning he called me and said, if you want the job, you've got it. So I took it.
Nice. I remember that very well. So I guess
me too.
You and Phil were survivors of Vern Gosdin. That's how you.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty interesting. And Don, I saw you play many times with Crow because I was heavy in festivals at that time, and Phil, and I knew Kurt Chapman, all you guys. I had the privilege of doing a lot of legal work for JD as a lawyer. I actually did his endorsement deal with Gibson Banjos.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty, it was an honor, right? But, and then I remember very well, I saw you right after it happened when you then went on because Dan Tominski left Lonesome River Band and went to Alison Krauss.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
well, what happened there? Actually, a lot of people think that I replaced Dan. Well, first of all, he's irreplaceable. But second of all, he had been gone for a while. They'd offered me the job when he left. That was the third. Actually, I guess they offered me that job 4 different times. But the third time was when he left, and they were trying people out, but I was just filling in with them for the weekend because they had shows.
Okay.
So the guy that replaced Dan was Darrell Webb.
That's right. Okay. And then
then it came on down the about a year later, a decision was made to take a different direction, and they offered me the job again, or they called me that time and asked me if I knew anybody who might be interested. And I said, yeah, I think I do. And they said, who? I said, me. And Tim said, you're kidding. I said, no. He said, you're finally going to do this. I said, yeah, if you want me to. It was nothing against JD. That's the hardest job I ever left.
I bet.
Because JD was like family, and he was legendary, and we were writing a Grammy nomination right then, and there's a lot of cool things that were going on in the band. But JD kind of worked it as very serious part-time.
Okay.
At that point, he played all he wanted to, and he made a lot more money than we did, as he should, because he was taking all the risk, and it was his name getting the shows. So, I mean, I didn't have any problem with it, but I wanted to work more, and I needed to work more.
Yeah.
And the Lonesome River Band gave me a raise and was working twice as much. So that's what happened.
And then JD got Darrell, right?
Yep. And Darrell went to JD for a while.
Yeah.
And then, but the guy that I recommended, not because I had anything against Darrell, it's just that I listened to things in a different way, I guess. And Dwight McCall, I had encountered with the Country Gentleman. He was playing as the mandolin player with the Country Gentleman. And JD asked me when I turned in my notice, I said, I'm sorry. He said, well, it's all right. It's been a good run. But he said, I knew it was coming. And he said, do you have anybody? I said, yeah. If you ought to give a call to Dwight McCall, because I think he's very suited for this gig. And guess what? I was right. Because when he got in there, he stayed and he stayed and he stayed and did a great job, made good recordings. And, he was the quintessential New South mandolin player and tenor singer for sure.
Yes. I met, when John and I were in law school, we went to Vernon McIntyre's old time music barn.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
He played with Vernon for a long time, too.
That's where I met Dwight McCall. And he was a young man. This has been, again, in that 91 to 94 era when I was in law school.
I think if I'm not mistaken, he played the banjo.
Yeah. Yes. He did. You're right.
Yeah, he's a good banjo player and fantastic singer, mandolin player.
I sure like him. I haven't seen him in years.
And I like Darrell, too, by the way. I'm not disparaging on Darrell. Darrell's a great musician. He can play anything, sing all the parts. So, but I was just listening to my ear because he already had Ricky Wasson in in the band, well, no, I'm telling you wrong. He had Greg Luck.
Greg Luck, yeah.
But Greg didn't stay very long after I left. I mean, maybe a year.
Yeah.
He was long enough there to get to be a recorded member of the New South, and that's a pretty serious deal. But anyway, Ricky and Dwight have a magic in their harmonies.
Yes. What become of Greg Luck?
Greg is married and got children and lived in North Carolina, and I don't really know what he's doing musically. I don't think he plays full time anymore.
God, I see. Now, Don, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he have some songwriting luck with a hit with? Did he and Ronnie Bowman write something that got?
Yeah, they wrote The Healing Kind together.
Yeah,
Dan Seals cut it, and Leanne Womack cut it.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, you've not only are you a legendary bluegrass person yourself, but you've played with legends, Don. I mean, Dean Dillon. I mean, you got to see Dean Dillon play. I mean, it's stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember specifically about Dean was when he was on stage singing. He did Miami, Miami, which is one that he co-wrote for Keith, and Keith had just passed away not too long prior to that, and he said, "This is for Keith." And Keith being from my hometown, that hit me really hard, and everybody in the crowd started taking out their cigarette lighters and waving them around and all that.
Yeah.
It was a pretty touching moment. I never forgot it.
I bet. Don, what's been you've been in this business, like you said, 40 years. You're friends and have played with greats. You're a great yourself, in my opinion. What's been your biggest moment, Don, of playing? What's your biggest honor as a bluegrass musician, singer?
That's the tough one.
You probably got a lot, don't you? Give me your top.
I have a few things.
5 or your top 3.
I can do that.
Okay.
My top 5, no particular order.
Okay.
Playing Carnegie Hall with Alan Jackson.
Wow. Tell us about that.
Well, that all came about because of Scott Coney. Scott is a guitar player in Alan's band, the Strayhorns. And he's a bluegrasser, and he can play Tony Rice note for note. He's scary at it. And Alan, for the longest time, I mean, even now, he doesn't really like modern country, and he listens to bluegrass music all the time. And he decided he wanted to do a bluegrass record. And he let Scott handpick the people that were going to be on it. So I was given lessons in Grayson, Kentucky, and my phone rang, and I looked at it, and it was not a number I recognized, and I just kind of let it go because I was in the middle of a lesson. But I picked it up and called back, and it was Alan Jackson's office. And I thought, yeah, this is somebody playing a joke.
Yeah.
And they said, Alan Jackson is interested in doing a bluegrass record, but we don't want you telling everybody about it. But if you're interested, we'd like to have you be a part of it. And I'm like, yeah, right. Okay, well, let me think about it. But as it turns out, it was legit. And so we all got together and went to Nashville and in 2 sessions did the record. And it included, in addition to Alan, Rob Ickes on dobro, Adam Steffi on mandolin, Sammy Sheeler on banjo. Scott played all the guitar on it, and Tim Crouch played fiddle. And it was a heck of a session. And me and Ronnie Bowman did the harmonies. Well, we went down there for the tracking sessions, and most of that kind of stuff is just in an overdub situation. Yeah. So we figured we'd just be called in to put the harmonies on later. That's not how Alan wanted to. That's not his process. He wanted us there to try to sing the harmonies so he could get a sense and a feel about how it was going to turn out, and he liked what he heard, and they called us back, and we went down for 3 more days on another session to an overdub studio, and and put all the harmonies down.
Wow.
So then all that comes into full circle. We wound up doing a big release party at the station inn, and it's by invitation only, and it was really a big deal. And then the next things that were to come up was the David Letterman show and Carnegie Hall. So I had to fly in from North Carolina. I was playing at the State Fair in North Carolina for 2 weeks, and had to fly in to do the Letterman show and Carnegie Hall. And then from there, the next thing and the last thing we did was Merle Fest. And we all kind of felt like the record could have done a lot more as far as shows and that sort of thing. But at the very time that it came out, Alan switched management companies, and they wanted him to do another country record because that was the meat and potatoes of his career. And he did, and it was great, but we just kind of felt like the bluegrass record never got the opportunity that it should have had, because the songs on that thing are really good. And the performances with all those pickers, how could they miss?
Yeah. Oh my God. Somebody needs to
Tim Dishman plays bass too. I need to mention that. He's great.
Man, what an experience from the State Fair to Carnegie Hall. You can't beat that.
Yeah.
So what's the next? Yeah. What's the next at your top?
Well, the whole Alan Jackson experience was one of them.
What kind of gentleman is he, Don?
He's very nice but shy, very quiet. We didn't spend a ton of time together. Like even at the recording sessions, he wasn't even there when we did the harmonies. It was Keith Stegall, his producer, was there doing all that. But and Adam Wright. Adam is his nephew. He was a co-producer on him and Keith. So, but like even at the initial sessions, he had his bus parked there, and between takes, he'd go to the bus. And, now that we know that he has health issues, I'm thinking maybe that might have had more to do with it than anything. He needed that.
Yeah, just felt bad.
So, but he would call us in on the bus and kind of like a pep talk, like a coach, before we would play, like 15 or 20 minutes before we would go on the stage and sing, and it went well. The night we played Carnegie Hall was kind of nerve-wracking because I don't know what you know about New York City, but it's very union-oriented. And with the Carnegie Hall, man, I mean, they run it like a watch factory. I mean, if it's not in time and not on time, you're in trouble. Mm. So they tell us it's time to play, and some of his people gave us the cue, and the band kicks off the song, and there's no Alan. He's still on the bus. He don't even have his shirt on yet. So the band's vamping, and they look at us, the people pointing at their watch, and his people are shrugging their shoulders like, well, we don't know what to do. So I talked to Ronnie. We were standing there, and I said, hang on. And I walked around to all the band members, and I told them what we were going to do. We kicked into an old bluegrass standard that was in the same key, and Ronnie and I actually each got to sing a song at Carnegie Hall on Alan's show, opening the show, even though it was not planned. But he initially got upset about it. I mean, because he didn't know what we were doing or why we were doing it, but they cleared it up for us. The rest of the people did, yeah. And it was a fun experience. I bet.
What'd you play? What'd y'all sing?
Well, I think Ronnie might have sang "Little Cabin Home on the Hill."
Okay.
And I think that's what he did. The key matched it perfect. That was the first one, and I put the tenor on it. And then the next one we still had more time because he was not there yet. So I told him, well, let's do I Know What It Means to Be Lonesome. So they kicked it up a notch, and we did that, and then he came out, and his first song was I was glad to see the blacktop, so yeah.
Wow, what an experience, man! That's man. You need. I hope you do a book one of these days, Don, if you haven't already.
I'm writing a book.
Good, excellent. Let me know. We'll promote that here too.
Okay.
So, Don, what's next on that list? Top.
Probably we were doing, when I was at the Lonesome River Band, we were doing Music City Tonight on it was on TNN.
Yeah.
I think it's still TNN at that point. But we were there, and they had Vince Gill on the show, and he was promoting his golf tournament. So he was out there showing whoever the host was how to putt. And then when he got done, he hung around, and he loves bluegrass. Vince is an old bluegrasser. And he came back and was talking with us, and he said, "Hey, what are you guys doing tomorrow night?" Well, we were supposed to be in Ohio playing at Frontier Ranch. And we all said nothing.
Yeah.
We're not busy. He said, "Well, why don't you hang out and play the Opry with me and be my band tomorrow night?" So we did all that, and we called the festival, and they were fine. We just moved the date to the Saturday. We played the Friday Night Opry with Vince as his band.
Oh,
and he did his single at the time was High Lonesome Sound.
ooh.
So we did all that with him and Jeff White, and we played the music, and then he said he wanted us to sing one, and we're like, well, he won't know any of our songs. He said, "I know your stuff. We listen to you." So we did, up until now, probably the highlight of my career was singing on John Fogerty's Blue Moon Swamp record, but this is bigger to me. And he said, "No," he said, "it's not bigger than that." And he said, "It's just the beginning." He said, "You've got a lot of stuff out in front of you that's going to be bigger than all that." And but then after that, probably the John Fogerty thing.
I didn't know you did that. Tell me about the John Fogerty deal.
Well, he had a record out. It won the Grammy for rock and roll album, and we sang on two cuts of it. Jerry Douglas had produced a couple of things for us for the Lonesome River Band, and John had White Lion, I think, or maybe White Snake. I can't remember, one of them white groups.
Yeah, the 80s rock band, hair band.
Yeah, big hair band, and they'd been in there, and they didn't get what he wanted. He was hearing something else with the harmonies, and he asked Jerry who he should get, and Jerry sent him to us. So, Sammy called me here at the house, and I was out mowing the grass. And he said, "You need to call me back. There's something big has come up." I said, "All right." So he said, "They're going to fly you guys out there to do this." So sure enough, they flew us out there and picked us up at the airport in a limousine and took us to the hotel, and already had a rental car waiting on us to get around town in. And we stayed at the Sportsman's Lodge and recorded at the Lighthouse. And John was there every day, and it was the most unique recording experience I've ever had, because back then didn't have computer stuff like I've got here in this studio to pocket things and tune them and line everything up. You just did it till you got it. So he recorded every take of the song, and we recorded each song, there's 2 songs, 50 times a day for 2 days. So 100 takes of us singing with him on every song. And they could razor blade edit things. They would take a razor blade and cut pieces of tape and splice them together. That's how they did it. But he was a taskmaster, but very nice. We ate well, and we were treated like kings. And then there was one of the songs, it had a note on it that I happened to know for a fact I only got it right twice in 100 takes. But I did know that I got it right, and I told the little engineer as I was leaving, I said, "Take number 71 or whatever, and take number 36. That's probably where you're going to get that line from. And he was pretty cool about it. But he was funny. The engineer had a big pompadour haircut, and he looked like he stepped right off of a 1950s album cover, of some of those bands. And he was doing a little dance and moving his fingers around. But we watched. He was not moving a single knob. He was putting on a show. He moved the knobs when John told him to move the knobs.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, John was the producer, and he was the mover and shaker of it all. So it wound up being pretty cool.
Now, where was that studio at, Don?
Los Angeles.
Wow.
We had played the National Folk Festival in Dayton, Ohio, and they picked us up there in a limousine and drove us to the airport in Cincinnati, and we caught a plane from Cincinnati to Los Angeles. Somewhere in my stuff, I've got pictures of all that.
Wow.
Of us singing in there and riding in the limousine, me and Kenny with our shorts on, and feeling like we was a big deal.
Oh, man.
And it wound up being a big deal because the two songs, one of them was called Rambunctious Boy, and the other one was called Southern Streamline. Well, Southern Streamline was a hit. It was the single release, and it became a hit record, and they did a video on it, and we were all excited, And he also had the Fairfield Four on there with him. They sang a song called 110 in the Shade with him on there, and we all thought, well, this could work into something where we would get to be on some tours with him or something and get to come out. It didn't work out for us like that, but the Fairfield Four did. They got to go out on the road with him and do things. But I'll take it.
That's right.
Because that's a credential that, I'm on a Grammy Award winning record. I've got the credentials for it. Nobody can ever take that away from me.
That's right. What a story. So, okay. What's
then
next?
Probably after that, I recorded a project, for, it's called Doctor's Orders. And I did a tribute record to Ralph Stanley, who was my mentor from the time I was 6. And he's on it. He came in and he sang on it, and I had Larry Sparks on it and Ricky Skaggs and different people. And that whole process of putting that record together was a labor of love and intense, but it's probably my favorite thing I've ever done. And my dad got to be around for it to see all that come to fruition, and that was big. And then probably a tie on this one is Larry Sparks' 40 project. I produced that, and I spent all the time on it and worked hard, and it won Album of the Year and Recorded Event of the Year. And that year, Larry got Male Vocalist of the Year too. So I was pretty stoked about my involvement with that whole deal.
Wow, Don, I didn't know. But I told you, I've been on about a 15-year out of the loop a little bit on some of that stuff, and I was following you, hardcore. That finish your list?
That's my list. That's not to put anything else down. I've played all over the world and did a lot of traveling. I've been to Australia and Japan and all over Europe and the Caribbean and all the Canadian provinces. I've played all those places. I've only got one state left that I haven't played in. That's Hawaii. And so I really don't have a whole lot left to do. I'm going to Ireland for an 11-day tour next week. So I'm still having to play. I haven't made a big basket full of money to tie me over. I have to go get it, but I'm blessed to have that ability.
Oh yeah, see the world. Of all the gigs and all the shows from the time you was in college, high school to now, what's the craziest, most wildest, or oddest, or weirdest show you've ever played? You've been asked to play for, private events or whatever.
I'll tell you, me and Johnny were in college. and we were scrambling to get any kind of shows we could get. And this is funny. So Johnny gets a call from some guy in Prestonsburg, and they want us to come play at a nightclub with our little Truegrass band. That would seem like any kind of a normal kind of a deal, but we show up there, and we notice on the stage there are poles. And I'm talking, not in a load-bearing kind of capacity, or certainly not to keep the roof from falling on you. They had to bear a load, but not that kind of load. And so Johnny says, what have we got into here? Johnny had a little sound system. We brought it in and we set it up, and the guy, I can't remember. I think his name was Jan Blevins, maybe, but I think he's dead now. But at the time, we went back in his office, and we had agreed to a modest little fee, like a couple $100 a night or whatever. And he told us just prior to all that, the city shut him down. He'd had a strip club in that place. And so, we played in a strip joint, to keep the doors open till he could try to get some money back from all he had invested in the deal. And, oh boy, I can't believe I'm telling all this, but, that night he took us in the office, and the strippers were still working there, but they were waiting tables, and they were scantily clad. And, he said, these are my women, and they do what I tell them. I mean, he was, bragging about all that. And we played that for 2 or 3 nights. And then they decided they needed a country band to come in there that had drums and electric guitar. And we'd only agreed to do it for 2 weeks, but we showed up the next week because he didn't call us and tell us. And there was already somebody on the stage playing, that, more drinking kind of music.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I'd give anything, because I know you and Johnny well, and you boys are straight, not drinkers, not partiers whatsoever. I'd like to see in your all's faces when you realized where you were.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Me and Johnny have talked about it a few times in the past, but it's been a year or so, more like about 15 since we thought about that. I need to remind him about of our adventure playing in the strip joint in Prestonsburg, Kentucky. The one that, there's no one that to the credit of those public officials, they shut it down, as soon as they got wind of what it actually was. And we didn't have any idea what we were doing. We were just college kids looking to make $1 or $2.
Yes.
And it was funny. It was a funny trip.
You made me think just for a second, but my brothers, this had been the early 90s. Chicken fighting was still legal in Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
Leslie County, Clay County line. I'm from Leslie County.
Mm-hmm.
Red Bird Arena. And it was a big barn chicken fight. So, had bleachers in there, concession stand.
Oh, yeah.
And my brothers their band was called the Sugar Shack Band, and they get up there on stage and play in the interim. And they'd be feathers and blood. And it was chicken wire literally around the stage because of the chickens. But you can't make stuff up, can you? That's
no, you can't. It's funny how this all has transpired, and how here I am now, and I look back on it now, and I'm like, I've been in a place or two. I was in Marlowe's Country Palace when I was a kid, and a man got shot and killed there. Right in front of me that day. And it was traumatizing. I was 16 years old, and I was there with my dad. We was on a Sunday of all things, a benefit show for a bluegrass guy named Curly Lambert that had passed, and they were making up money to pay his funeral expenses. And we were there, and Dave Evans was there, and Ralph Stanley was there, and the Goins brothers. But there's a band on the stage that consisted of Wendell Bartley, who just passed away, and Timmy Klein, and I can't remember the others, but I remember those two guys being in the band, and they weren't really in a band. They just put together something to play, and they called themselves the Pike County Egg Suckers. And that when they were on stage when the shooting happened, and my dad was sitting there next to Jack Cook, and I was not too far away, but there was a pop, and then pop, 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 and then one more pop. And Jack Cook, after that first pop, said to my dad, "Who in the hell is setting off firecrackers in this place?" And Dad said, "That's not firecrackers. Hit the deck." And they got on the floor, and I was not near my dad, but I did instinctively hit in the floor too. And when all the shooting stopped and there was a big, commotion, the bouncers had tackled the guy that did the shooting. But I jumped up and ran back through this hallway and went into a office, and there were two ladies in there, and they were scared to death. And I barricaded the door with amplifiers, and I just had a pocket knife, and I had my pocket knife out, and I was going to defend myself the best I could, and we heard banging on the door, and they said, "Open the door." And I said, "I'm not opening this door." And they said, "Open the door. This is security." And I said, "How do I know you're security?" They said, "We are security. Open the door." So I guess whatever, I was intimidated enough till I did open it. But sure enough, they had the guy, had a hold of him, and brought him in there. And I was right face to face with a murderer, freshly.
Yeah.
And he'd shot that. He had a .32 pistol in his pocket, and it had 5 shots, and he emptied it. And that guy kept fighting, and until the first 2 shots he kept fighting, but after that third shot, fighting was over. Yeah. Whatever it hit, it put a stop to him. And it was a surreal moment for me to go out there, and there he laid on the floor, and somebody from the nightclub had taken a tablecloth and covered him with it. And the state police was there in 10 minutes, but I mean, they were right on time to clean up the mess. I mean, there was, it was just scary, and I'll never forget it.
Oh gosh, no, that's, my brothers played at Marlowe's with their band too in high school. And matter of fact, that's how they became friends. Dwayne Strobel used to play for Marlowe.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my favorite Nashville guitar pickers,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know Dwayne?
I don't think so.
He's done a lot of studio work down there, but man, he's something else. He's played on some albums and stuff. But anyway, I haven't seen him in a long time, but boy, that brings back memories. Marlowe's Palace.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Don, what does 2026 look like for Don Rigsby?
Well, I'm in a band, and I'm playing in 4 different bands right now.
Okay.
But I'm specifically in mostly in 2. Okay. Right now, I'm playing with a band that consists of myself, Josh Williams, Mike Anglin, Steve Thomas, and Ron Block, and it's called Southern Legacy. And we've got a record in the can. In fact, right now as we speak, Josh Williams is finishing up guitar on one last piece, and then it'll be mixed, and it should come out hopefully by August. And we're excited about it. We had a single that went #1 last year from that, and got one getting ready to drop here in a few days, a new single. So that's pretty exciting, and that's the band I'm going to Ireland with.
Oh, man. Well, Don, you make sure you let me know that. I want to push that as much as I can on all my social media stuff. I haven't seen Mike Anglin in years. I thought the world of his stepdad, Matt Paul.
Yeah, nice man. And Mike's a wonderful person. He's a lot like Matt. And,
yes.
Matt had a big hand in raising him. So,
yes,
he's good people. So that's that. And then I'm playing fiddle and singing harmony with Balsam Range.
Okay. Yeah.
So I played all last year with them because, as it turns out, Ron is in the band, and he wants to be in the band, and he's the great Ron Block, of course, but he's also in Union Station, has been in Alison Krause's band for 33 years. And she decided, oddly enough, right at the inception of our band, to undertake a massive bunch of touring. So he's got like 75 dates this year, and he had 75 last year with her. And Jody King plays with us on the days that Ron can't be there, which he's great. He's great also. But because of that, the demand for the band is not what it will be when Ron's around full time.
Yes.
So it works out good for me that I have another major level gig that fills in all the blanks, And then I've got my own band, the Flyby Nights, which is me, Tim Corbett, Caleb Doherty, and Caleb Smith. And it's a good little band, and I enjoy that. And then I work a lot with Ricky Wasson, too, and Kevin Denny. And so I stay busy. And then I've got this recording studio that we're getting ready to launch. I'm sitting here in it right now, but we're getting ready to open it up to the public and have people come in and make recordings here. And I'll be on hand to help produce, and my son will be engineering, and I'll be engineering. And so we'll have all that going within a month. And I give private instruction on Mondays and Tuesdays when I'm around. And so I'm getting ready to go teach this evening. So I stay very busy, very busy.
Sounds like. Now, Don, if somebody wants to get in touch with you for recording, for lessons, or book you for a show, how do they do that?
Well, you can call me on my. I've just got a cell phone now, and if you try to prank call me, I'll just block you. I mean, it ain't no big deal. Phone numbers are no big deal. I don't mind people having it, but it's 606-776-5894 if you have business with me. And that's also my cell, and it's probably best to send me a text first, because oftentimes I just don't answer calls unless I recognize the number. I screen calls like everybody else.
Yes.
And you get up with me there. You could send me an email at Don Rigsby 1968, and that's RIGSBY, DONRIGSBY 1968 at gmail.com. And I will answer there. And sometimes that's a good way too. And we're going to have, for the studio, I've got a fan page on Facebook, but we're going to have one for the studio too. And a studio number. The studio is called Torchlight Studio. And so, but you can start checking all that. We'll be making a big announcement about that and a big push to get people interested in the studio pretty soon on Facebook. So,
Don, please let me know, and I'll share that with all my followers and stuff, and help what little bit I can. I'll love to help. Appreciate it. But mate, I consider you a friend. I've known you a long time. It's just a shame that it's been a long time since we've seen each other. But
yeah, well, if you wouldn't move off to Texas and not tell anybody, it wouldn't be that way, would it?
I swear, yeah. I'm trying to get back closer to home. My mom's back. She left Nashville. She's back in Kentucky. My brother's still in Nashville. But all my kids, I got a son at University of Kentucky. I got a son at law school at Tennessee, and my daughters all of them are still in Kentucky. So
yeah. Kentucky has a way of getting in your skin and in your bones a little bit more than about any place I've been. There's a lot of I've been a lot of places, but I've never been any place that was home except here. And I've always, I've met a lot of people from Kentucky, and they're always going home, even if just for a visit, because they still call it home.
It is home. I've been I love Texas. Been here a while, but Kentucky is, I bleed blue. So.
Yeah. Me too. And I'm a Morehead State University graduate, but we always rooted for Morehead unless they were playing Kentucky. Yeah. Even though we went to school there, and I love UK and all the sports and stuff they got going on there. It's always great, and the tradition.
It is.
We were just raised in the mountains to have pride in that school.
That's right.
And not a whole lot in Louisville.
That's right. Amen there too. Yeah. I didn't even go to Louisville Law School. I actually did get accepted there and didn't go. I went to Chase.
Because you went to Salmon P. Chase Law School.
Yeah. Because I just couldn't, we were brought up to hate Louisville,
Yeah.
Yeah. It just didn't feel right. But anyway, no, I love Louisville people. No offense there. But
Me too. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. It's all in good humor. Don,
yes,
I know you're a busy man and you got a lot going on, and I thank you for taking time to come on here. It's an honor to have you. You know that.
My pleasure.
And I'll get you back on. We might wait a while and get you on, let you see how that studio's going, see how the touring's going, and I'll keep more in touch with you. Promise. I got your phone number.
That'll be good.
Yeah,
that'll be good.
Years.
Next time maybe I'll have my son here and we can kind of do a little walk around and show a video of the studio with him doing stuff.
Love that.